Hello everyone! World of Warcraft is going into its 10th year anniversary, and I figured it'd be fun to sit here, reminisce a little bit about playing World of Warcraft for 10 years, and just, talk about my experiences. This will be a little bit different than what I usually do, but I hope you'll still enjoy it. I remember way back when a friend of mine came to me with this brand new game, World of Warcraft, and we had just finished playing Star Wars Galaxies over the summer. Star Wars Galaxies have been great fun, and I just invested a full summer in it. And I figured, well, do I really want to spend another summer or another time period on a new MMO? But when I saw the trailer, I was sold, man. I remember seeing that dwarf fighting the Tauren and thinking to myself, like, wow, this looks so cool, this looks incredible. I want to make a hunter, considering that apparently the enemy needs to fight my beast before they can target me. I thought it was a great tactic and a great advantage over other people, so I was going to be a hunter. The friend who introduced me, Mr. C or Sirio, he had already made a character on the Alliance side, so my faction was easily chosen. And when I browsed through the list, I saw that Night Elves, they could move faster when dead. I considered that being the noob that I was going to spend a whole bunch of time dead. So that seemed like a good trait. I made my Night Elf male hunter, Noble NL, on the Skull Crusher PvP server. And that's right, I actually started on a PvP realm. And the first time that I entered the game, and I saw these big ass quest text boxes, I was like, what am I supposed to do here? Oh, I need to shoot that and that. Oh, I need to kill that and that. How do my abilities work? I had no clue how the game worked, and after like 30 minutes, I was done for the day. The game didn't seem to be appealing at all. I figured, this is probably not for me. But the next day, I gave it another shot. I played for an hour. The next day, I played for 2 hours, and before I knew it, I was hooked. The atmosphere, the whole place of it all, just grinding and then mindlessly doing stuff. I had no clue what was going on, but at the same time I had so much fun while doing it. I remember asking in general chat, right? Back in the day you had to feed your pets in order to keep them happy. And I saw that my pet was unhappy, but I had no idea how to feed it. So I asked in general chat, like, guys, how do I make my pet happy again? And some bastard on the general chat told me that I should target my pets and type /pet or type /feed or something like that in order to make it happy again. So I was standing there for a good solid 5 minutes typing /pet. Nothing was working. And then, fortunately enough, somebody was kind enough to actually whisper me and told me what I needed to do, which was to give my pet some food. My first experience with trolls, everybody. Yeah, great fun. I also remember that I eventually ended up in a guild, of course, and we had this competition. I had a competition with a rogue buddy of mine who could get the most armor points. We didn't realize at first, or at least I didn't, and apparently he picked it up earlier than I did, was that the other stats, like agility and strength and all that was really important to have, and armor for our classes was pretty much useless, but I didn't realize it. So when I was leveling up, I started to gather these male items, because at around level 40, I believe, I would be able to use those male items and would get massive amounts of armor points. Now keep in mind, these were like grey items or white items. I didn't care. It was male. I could use it. So once I reached that point, once I get like a ton of armor points, I whispered him like, nah, I got more armor than you. And he was like, yeah, but what about your agility? And I was like, well, what's agility? So he explains it to me that was the stat that I needed. And yeah, from that moment on, I learned about stats. Different times, my friends. We didn't have that many fan-based websites to help us out. We didn't have that much information. We had Fotbot that gave us information on, if you were lucky enough, that is, if somebody else put any information on where to find your quest and your quest items. But other than that, the game didn't really give you any information. You had to depend on the friendliness of other players to help you out. It was great fun, to be honest. The social interaction was unrivaled, and it was great fun. I also spent a lot of time in Darkshore just fighting crabs and thinking, why was this so difficult? Because I didn't have the right gear points. I don't think I picked up talent points until way into the game. But yeah, it was good fun. The first time that we encountered horde players was also quite the deal. We were walking from... we had from Darkshore to Ashenville, and on that road a couple of horde players were standing, and they were skull level. I was below them, so I was like a certain amount of levels below them, so I couldn't make out what level they were, and I was like, what are these guys? Are these guys friendly? I tried to talk to them, they tried to talk back, and I saw some strange words on my screen. I was like, why can't we interact with each other? What's going on here? And apparently they were the enemy, because a few seconds later I was dead. Oh, yeah, good times, beloved Horde. Also in Lakeshire, how many times there wasn't a battle between Alliance and Horde in Lakeshire, and then the Forsaken would go into the water. Because I believe back in the day, they didn't have like the water bars, like the air bars, so they could just stay on the water and shoot people. Good times, and let's not forget the Tar and Mail versus South Shore battles. I can't count the amount of times that people in guild chat would call out like, guys, the Horde has taken South Shore again, they've taken our Flight Master, please come out and help. And then your entire guild was swooped down and South Shore was decimated. So you tried to push back the Horde to Tar and Mail, and they push you back again. And at some point we had a role-playing paladin who would stand in front of us on his mount and be like, Alliance soldiers, today we take back this land. And then we all charged in, and everybody would split up because it was a pretty vast area. We lose each other, we all get one by one, we get ganked. And if you manage to push the Horde back far enough to Tar and Mail, the guards would come out and smack you. Oh man, I can't express how fun it is for me that during the 10-year anniversary they're actually gonna open up the South Shore versus Tar and Mail battleground. I hope it's gonna be great fun. I mean, it's never gonna be as nostalgic as I remember it in my mind, but I hope it's gonna be great fun. So eventually, I met some very nice people, and at some points I saw in the guild roster that one of the players, a warlock, I remember there was a warlock, he was in Molten Core. And I was like, what's a Molten Core? What are you doing there? And he explained to me, like, we're fighting fire giants, we're getting epic gear. This is what you're supposed to do at the end of the game. I was like, okay, can I join? Because previously, before that, I had done Dead Mines, for example, before with the guys. Well, at least I tried to do Dead Mines. I was unable to find my way there. But he told me, yeah, sure, you just need to get the gear, you need to get the fire resistance, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. And I was like, that's a lot of work, man. That's a lot of work, because you had to do, like, the achievement quest to Blackrock Depths. In order to... No, the achievement quest was in Blackrock Depths. Blackrock Depths itself had a key that you needed, or you needed a rogue or whatnot. You had the escort quest for Onyxia that you needed to do. You had to get fire resistance gear. You had to get the Hydraxian Waterlord's reputation. You had to get flasks, not flasks, you had to get water to douse the ruins in Molten Core. And then inside Molten Core itself, you had to build up reputation to get those flasks. Yeah, that was it. There was the quest line to get into Molten Core, and then there was the flasks that you needed to get. Then the second boss, the Beastie boss, he required hunters to have, like, tranquilizing shots. And these days, that's just part of your kit, right? You can trank shot, and the in-rage goes from the bossy. But back in the day, you had to get it from the first boss in Molten Core, so you were set for a couple of weeks of getting that first boss, getting your hunters with the trank shot before you could even move into the second boss. Yeah, that was it. But eventually I made it. Eventually I got my gear up. I found a guild that I was going to raid with. I think they were called Vlad Dracul. And we were starting to raid. And the first time that I was in Molten Core, I was amazed. I was like, wow, this is so cool. What are we going to do here? So we had specific class officers that had specific chat channels, and in those channels they would explain for each class what they needed to do. You had raids of 40 men, organizing them all in one group was a little bit of too big of a task to do, so each class had their own officer, and they would explain the tactics and what people needed to do. There was this one guy, Beefcake, I'll never forget, he had like this one macro that he was used, like whenever he pulled, and he was a great guy, but there was another hunter, kind of a... let's just call him a bastard, shall we? Who instantly started to whisper me about gear. Like, if this gear drops, will you pass it to me? If this gear drops, don't bid any DKP points on it. DKP, drag and kill points, the currency that we use to distribute loot. The more time spent in a raid, the more bosses killed, or perhaps time spent on a bench, the more points you had to bid on items. It was a whole different system, let me tell you that much. It was a headache. But he started to whisper me, and I whispered Beefcake like, yo, this is going on, and what is this? Is this supposed to be? They noticed that I wasn't bidding on any gear, and they were like, yeah, no, you know, you are here, you got the right to bid on gear. You are the one who's playing with us, so more than enough reason for you to bid on gear as well. So that was my first interaction with an asshole there. And eventually I managed to make my way up, so to say, to become the guy who pulled the Molten Core Hounds back to the tanks, to pull the bosses, to explain tactics to other hunters, because at some point I got that position. It was amazing fun, and we did Molten Core together, we did Blackwing Lair together, and at the end of Blackwing Lair, once we did Nefarian. Nefarian, by the way, amazing boss, to this day still my favorite boss. At that time, I kind of felt like I was done with raiding, you know. I believe Ankirai and Zul-Aman, I think, the troll dungeons opened up, and I was like, again, do I again need to farm the gear? Do I again need to do the achievements and this and that and that? It's been a year at this point, right? A year of full time playing World of Warcraft, and I was done with raiding. It didn't appeal to me to get the kills anymore, and the grind for gear. I didn't find it fun anymore. So I decided to, you know, sit on the bench a bit more, give other players the opportunity to do it. And when Extramus opened up and all that, I just let it pass, and yeah, I kind of stopped hardcore raiding at that point. Now, a few last things about Classic is the buddy of mine that I mentioned at the start, Sirio, he had chosen a human mage as his character. And what I didn't know at the time is that Night Elves and humans, they of course start in different zones. I was in Darnassus, he was near Stormwind. It was an entire world apart. And I told him, like, yo, Mr. C, I remember from the cinematic that the dwarf was with a white bear. Could I get a white bear somewhere? And he was like, yeah, sure. All you need to do is go to Ironforge. And I was like, what? What's an Ironforge? So apparently there was like a whole kingdom beyond the Darnassus Night Elf area that I'd never seen before. So he was like, you wait, I'll come pick you up, I'll invite you to my group. And we got a couple of other people with us. They also wanted to go to Ironforge, and we would journey to Ironforge. So we took the boats, we went to Manifil Harbor, and there, oh my, oh, the journey. You had to cross through the wetlands, and the crocodiles in the wetlands were not friendly. So it was corpse running all the way, and Mr. C couldn't keep us safe from all the crocodiles, and they would one-shot us, so we had to corpse run all the way to Ironforge. But when we reached that place, when I first time saw the snow in the game, it was amazing. Just honestly, it was such a transition from scenery. It was such a mind opener that was a world beyond that world that I was like, how big is this game? We spent hours trying to get here. How big is this? Oh, and then I found out like I couldn't tame the bear because I think I was too low level to get the bear. Oh boy. That was good fun. And the final thing I want to mention before we move on from the classic nostalgia era is my all-time favorite quest. I mentioned that I raided a Molten Core, and inside Molten Core you could get an item called the Petrified Leaf, I believe. It's known as the green leaf. And this item would give hunters a quest. You could either get the eye, which was for the priest, or the leaf for the hunters, and if you got this item, you would embark on a massive, epic quest line that eventually, besides getting like an epic sinew for your quiver, besides sending you to Winterspring or whatnot, doesn't really matter. At some point, it pitched you against demons in the world. These demons were disguised as regular humanoids until you talked to them and they would transform. And each of them had their own ability. Like one of them, you had to kite around. You couldn't absolutely let them touch you, otherwise you'd be dead. Another, you had the mana drain. Another, you had to use the traps. All in all, it was such an achievement to get these demons done. It was such a rite of passage for hunters that if you finally got the quest done, it was amazing. And then there was the minor detail of nobody was allowed to help you, not even your pet. If a single target besides you would actually attack the demon or hit the demon, he would despawn and you have to wait for the respawn again. So what you ended up doing was making a macro, like yelling, like, please don't touch this demon, doing the hunter quest, please don't help me out, even if you're such a friendly guy. And of course you had the trolls and you had the horde to worry about and all that good stuff. But once you got it done and you went to Felwood and you saw that image and you got the item and the quiver and the staff, you were It was so cool to get it. Roc de la Longbow of the Ancients, I believe it was called. I'll see if I can find a picture of it. Like, the hunter looks pretty cool, right? I saw a hunter on the WoW forums the other day who came back since his classic days, and he was still geared in this. And I was like, oh man, I wish I still had that hunter. So the bow looked pretty cool. The staff actually looked like 3 pieces of wood duct taped together, like the druid starting staff, you know? But the gear, it was awesome gear to have, and it was really a rite of passage. Hunter back in the day, it was the noob class, and I didn't know that it was the noob class. Like I said, I started it because of the classic cinematic, but yeah, it got the reputation of being a noob class. Everybody who started out with the game actually picked this class, and everything was a hunter weapon. From agility to strength to whatever. If a hunter could equip it, a hunter would need on it, and they wanted the weapons. There were weapons in UBRS, and UBRS was a badass dungeon to do, because you had to find someone with a ring, you had to make a raid, and then this weapon, I will have to Google it for what it was actually called, which was hungered for by rogues and warriors. Hunters actually went for them. I had a friend of mine who wanted to become the first melee hunter in history, and he wanted those 2 weapons to become his companions. And the entire server called him out for it, you know, because everybody knew everybody. You were dependent on each other. You had to know who was who. For the world bosses, for PvP, for opening of Ankirai, you had to know who was on your server. So if you messed up, if you ninja looted, ninja looting, the act of taking loot that doesn't belong to your spec or something like that. Basically just taking loot for somebody else who needs it more than you. You were called out, you were blacklisted, you were screwed pretty much. There was one warlock on the server that everybody hated, up to the point that he actually transferred to the Horde. And you have to understand that you weren't allowed to have a Horde and Alliance character at the same time on this realm. And level 60 getting there took a ton of time. So he deleted his Alliance Warlock, his max level, went over to the Horde, leveled that one up again. And then when we saw him in Alterac Valley, everybody was like, hey, that's him, let's kill him. Social, like I said, social-wise, it were different days. Anyways, I've been rambling on for Classic for far too long. Once we heard the news for Burning Crusade, there was actually a contest amongst the guilds, and my guild won the contest. You had to send in a screenshot. We had one guy that was named similar to an NPC. We sent a screenshot in, and Blizzard was kind enough to send a couple of beta keys to the guild. The officers, Beefcake in this case, was kind enough to let me on his account, and I could see what was going to happen to the hunter and how Burning Crusade looked. And let's put it mildly, I wasn't pleased. I saw how we were going to replace our epics with greens, and I was like, are you kidding me? I spent hours, days, months to get this epic gear, and now we're gonna replace it with green items? Really? The Hellfire area looked very red and demonic and ugly in my eyes. The hunter changes with steady shot and whatnot. All in all, it wasn't in my taste, and like I mentioned, for a year I was addicted to World of Warcraft. Very honest about that. It's a simple fact, you know. I played 24/7. Most of us did back in the day. If you raided, you had to spend that much time. And I was like, I'm done. I'm gonna do something else with my life. So I took my very first break, and I got rid of that account. So Burning Crusade came around, and I let it pass me. But eventually I got curious, you know. Shamans had always been part of the enemy team. And I was interested, like, what's that class all about? It was pretty OP back in the day, and the same with the Draenei. So I rolled to a new server. I think this one's called Hellfire? Not entirely sure. And, well, I made a Draenei Shaman. I tried out the game, and it was fun. I joined a new guild group. We started raiding together, met some of the nicest people. Also in Classic, like I mentioned, social side was very strong, so I met the nicest people ever. We raided quite a bit, but at some point I hit that same wall again where I was like, okay, I'm kind of raiding now, but I don't want to go full-time raiding anymore. The Karazhan pugging for the first time was happening, but every time that we hit the curator, we would get stuck. So in the Burning Crusade, my endgame experience was doing the circle of daily quests, like Ogrela and the Sky Guard, and you know, all those, the Netherwing, all those little daily quests. You would do them in a circle. I would log out again, log back in the next day, do the little circle, and log out again. That was my end experience for Burning Crusade. Now, I've been told by other people that raiding actually reached its peak. The glory days of raiding was in the Burning Crusade. I personally don't know how much of that was true. I can't give a judgment about that. For me, Endgame didn't offer that much. So again, I got rid of that account and took a little break. This break lasted until around Wrath of the Lich King, and I think that I entered the game around Trial of the Crusader, because I remember making a paladin, and the reason why I made the paladin that I'm still playing to this day is because I saw WoW Hobbs on the YouTube, and he was doing the WoW Hobbs way of pulling, in which he was playing his paladin. He was pulling massive amounts of dungeons, enemies inside dungeons. He was boosting people, he was soloing. It looked like great fun, and I figured to myself, like, if endgame gets boring for me again, if I don't like raiding and PvPing, then I can always do that. I can always solo, and that will be entertaining for me. So I entered the game, like I mentioned, around the Trial of the Crusader period. This was with the emblems and whatnot. I did the heroic dungeons, I geared myself up, I leveled up, and I was done in like a week or two. And I asked my guildies, like, okay, I should also mention that this is the time where I entered League of Champions, and the reason why is because one of them was promoting in trade chat, like, join this guild, you'll get free bags, and I was like, free bags, score, that's what I need for a new character. Anyways, that's how I entered the guild that I'm still in to this day. So I asked the guildies, like, I'm done, I've got the gear, what's left to do? And they told me, like, okay, You've got your heroic gear, it's time to start raiding. I don't even know if they were called heroics. I think so. Anyways, I got my gear. And they said it was time to start raiding, but I'm like, I don't want to raid. Well, we started raiding, we did the whole Naxxramas thing. We did the whole, what else did we raid it? There were like dungeons in between. But I think Onyxia was boosted up in level. But eventually my plan was to get this raiding team up and going, to teach the tanks how to do it, how to do tactics, how to distribute it all, and then I would take my leave again. I would sit back and I would let that team do what it does best. Unfortunately, the tank at that time, that I actually spent time in and getting me up and ready, he decided to leave the guild and leave the realm for another team, so that was a bit disappointing. But for me, it was done. I was done with raiding. I was done with the end game, so I started soloing and actually making videos about this. I started soloing Onyxia. No, it can't be that it was boosted because I soloed Onyxia at 60. Doesn't matter, I'm a little bit confused, apologies, but that's what happens when you do it without a script. But I started soloing and I started making videos about it. I started making videos about, there was one quest in Dragonblight. The one where you had to spear like one of the dragons for the Sons of Hodir. It was a daily quest. And a friend of mine, she just couldn't get it done, right? She had so much trouble with getting that quest that I was like, you know what? Instead of just trying to explain it, let me make a video for you so that I can show you. And that was actually one of the first videos ever made. I had made videos before during the Burning Crusade with my Angelicus character. But yeah, that was one of the first times that I actually made a guide for someone. And that for me was so much fun. Trying to explain something to someone else, showing it in a video. And I decided, you know what, I can do this more. The same with soloing. I can solo stuff. And if I can do it, other people can do it. They might need pointers. They might need some tips on some of the hiccups that I found along the way. But eventually, if a dumbass like me can do it, then anybody can do it. And that's how I started with making the videos. So I worked on that while the expansion carried on. And then we got the Cataclysm, and I started to get more interested in the lore as well. I've seen the Wrathgate cinematic, and I'll spare you guys the Wrathgate cinematic in this video. I've shown it so many times now. But the Wrathgate cinematic was the one thing that really got me curious about the story of Warcraft. Before this time, I had never played a Warcraft game in my life. I had played StarCraft maybe once or twice with the same friend who introduced me to World of Warcraft. So the whole Blizzard and game genre was new to me. I had read maybe one lore book up to this point. I found it in my library and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's the game that I played in Burning Crusade. Might as well pick it up. So when I saw the Wrathgate, when I saw the music and the effect and the story and the voice acting, I was like, wow, this is really cool. I wonder what exactly happened here. I wonder what's going on here. So I started researching. I started looking at Wowpedia and articles about Lich King and Bolvar and the Wrathgate and Sylvanas. And one article led to another until eventually I had like 60 tabs open. And I was constantly reading, needing to find out more, to bring the pieces of the puzzle together. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. So we reached the Cataclysm beta, in which I found people like Jesse Cox and Total Biscuits. I think I've seen WoW Crendor before that, but I got more interested in the YouTube side of things, and I actually started subscribing to people on YouTube and watching more videos. And on top of that, on Jesse Cox's channel, we had the Lore for Noobs videos by Pride. These Lore for Noobs videos were perfect for me at this point, because I was like, oh cool, bite-sized lore videos, like a couple of minutes, get me up to speed. And I was like, this is great, I need to know more. So I started ordering the novels, I started reading up, and piece by piece, puzzle piece by puzzle piece, the lore story just fell together, and I fell in love with the storyline. So the Cataclysm beta came and went. The Cataclysm hit the world of Azeroth, and not only did it change the world, it also changed my guild, and I think the whole of World of Warcraft. LFR was introduced, and a lot of my friends were not alright with LFR. We tried raiding, but at some point, I remember clearly, we were at the ship in Dragonsoul, and the global nerf happened. Blizzard decided that, okay, time's up, you've been clowning around for long enough, now it's time to nerf the encounter so that everybody can clear these encounters. The counter-argument to this global nerf was that you could always turn off the buff, similar to what they did in ICC, but to me it felt like we could have done this, we could have taken the boats, we could have done this entire raid if we just were given a little bit of extra time. So, as much fun as I had with raiding in Dragonsoul, I was like, okay, you know what, fine, nerf the stuff, I'm done Blizzard, I'll just chill in LFR, I'll AFK and get my free loot, fine, whatever. Is that your intention with the game for now? Fine, let's go with it. Now, I don't want to be too negative about the Cataclysm. There are some things that are good about the expansion, like Transmog was really good, the revamp of the old world was brilliant. As you might have heard at the start, questing and whatnot, we were dependent on Thoughtbot, and the quests were all over the place, big plates of text, not really amount of story. The revamp was much needed, and still one of the better things that ever changed the World of Warcraft. But overall, Cataclysm is not my favorite. The LFR, the storyline, Deathwing being butchered, you know. If people ask me, like, what's your least favorite expansion, that one's right there. Anyways, you might feel very different about that. Cataclysm might be your most favorite expansion. I don't know. And honestly, this is my opinion. You can feel something different. But at this point, we reached the Mist of Pandaria beta. And at BlizzCon, they announced that if you took a year subscription on World of Warcraft, you would get a guaranteed beta access. And I was like, this is my opportunity. I've been making videos for YouTube for quite some time now. I've been making these guides, these solo guides. I would love to cover the beta, similar to what the Jesse Cox and the Total Biscuits and all those other guys, similar to what they did during the Cataclysm. I would love to do that. So I signed up for the year subscription. I did the Cataclysm beta, and I had so much fun. So much fun trying to cover every little detail, give you the news, spend 24, 48 hours on the beta getting those videos out. And the viewership didn't come at all. There was nobody interested in my beta videos. But it didn't matter to me. I had fun while doing it, and that was my intention. Now, near the end of the beta, we found out, or at least hints were dropped, that something was going on with Fedamore. Jaina was gonna get white hair, and I learned this information from Trade Chat, who was kind enough to actually send me, I think I asked her questions, she sent me some link as a source information. Doesn't matter, she helped me greatly, and I started speculating about Fedamore. And again, that video was done without a script, and as you can hear, whenever I do a video without a script, I start rambling, I start going on, but that was that was the first lore video that I ever did. And people were really interested in it. That gave me a clue, like, okay, the things that I've been building up since, well, let's be honest here, Classic, Burning Crusade, World of Warcraft, blah, blah, blah. People are interested in the lore story, so I'm gonna make these lore videos. I'm gonna tell the story. And after Fedamore Destroyed, we did the beta stories, Mr. Pandaria launched, I did those stories, and the viewership grew, and more people came together in order to love and listen to these lore stories, or at least I hope you love them. So that's kind of how the lore thing on the channel happened. So Mr. Pandaria came around, and I remember clearly how Jesse Cox, together with Pride, they speculated about the next expansion, and they nailed it. They nailed it that it was going to be the pandas. And when I saw the panda landing on the ground in the BlizzCon announcement trailer, I was like laughing my ass off. I remember thinking to myself, like, they did it. They actually went with it. They actually went with the Pandaren. I couldn't believe it. But then I started listening to what exactly was coming to the game. A new class, a new race, a new land, a new theme behind it, new storylines. I was like, this could be really cool. And indeed, in my opinion, Mr. Pandaria was great with all the content that it offered. The scenery in my eyes was beautiful. The music was great. I freaking love the Pandora, and I know a lot of people really don't like the pandas, but I freaking love them. I love the monk class, and all in all, I had a great time with Mr. Pandaria. I think it's especially because the endgame of Mr. Pandaria offered me so much. Like the other expansions in the Burning Crusade, all I had was my daily routine. Same in Wrath of the Lich King, and the Cataclysm also offered me LFR, but that was about it. In Mr. Pandaria, I had so much to do: scenarios, pet battles, proving grounds, brawlers guilds, the endgame content besides the usual raiding and PvPing. It was there, and I loved it. And to this day, maybe Warlord's gonna top it. But whenever people ask me, like, what's your favorite expansion? Because I can't say Classic. Classic is not an expansion. It's Mr. Pandaria because of that reason. So now, after nearly, or by this time, probably 10 years of World of Warcraft, we're going to go into Warlords of Draenor. We're already playing Warlords of Draenor. And as I'm talking to you, it announced that World of Warcraft has reached 10 million subscribers again. And that's, in my mind, absolutely mind-blowing and fantastic news. I know that the Warlords launch has been abysmal, has been horrible. Thankfully, Blizzard is going to compensate us with a couple of days free playtime, which is fantastic. But to hear that they've been able to rekindle and get people back into the game is freaking fantastic. And I really, really hope that those people will find some sort of love in the game. Be it lore, be it the people you find, be it the classes that you play, be it the bosses that you bring down, or the arenas or the battlegrounds that you might conquer. I really hope that they, somewhere along the way, find something that they love in World of Warcraft and that they will stick around. Because it's not only good for Blizzard, it's especially good for us because the game will need its players. People sometimes ask me, like, how long do you think that WoW is going to continue? How long do you think that Blizzard is going to continue? And I think they're going to make expansions as long as World of Warcraft is successful. And seeing these subscriber numbers, World of Warcraft is being very successful. It's getting grander and bigger with the Warcraft movie and whatnot. BlizzCon is getting more and more popular each year. And I can't wait what the future is gonna bring. For me, I can only say that 10 years of World of Warcraft, some might say, like, do you feel like you've wasted time? Never. Not even during my first year where I gave up my life for the game. Never, ever, ever, because I've enjoyed every single moment of it. And it even allowed me to build up a company. And again, also because of you guys, but and a lot because of Blizzard. I've really got a lot to be thankful for from them, because Blizzard is really cool about promoting their product, making videos with their content. So Blizzard, thank you for that. And I only hope and I only wish that it will go on for many, many years. That will make a lot of memories along the way. That will meet even more people, great friendships, have fun in the game, and yeah, I honestly can't wait what the road is going to bring us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think I've been rambling long enough, and I might have little gone away from the topic that I wanted to discuss. In a nutshell, I'm very happy that WoW has reached its 10 years anniversary. I can't wait for the events like Molten Core and the Battle for South Shore and whatnot. I hope you all have a blast, and to Blizzard, thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for having such a heart for the game. And not only for the game, as well as for the community and for us, for all of us. Thank you, and let's hope we'll see another 50 years. If not World of Warcraft, then at least Warcraft and the Blizzard Company. Right, everybody. Until next time, guys. See ya!
4 years have passed since the mortal races banded together and stood united against the might of the Burning Legion. Though Azeroth was saved, the tenuous pact between the Horde and the Alliance has all but evaporated. The drums of war thunder once again.